I am Traci Smith, licensed master social worker here at Holton Community Hospital and certified grief coach.
Okay, Traci. So
Yes.
I wanted to know a little bit about you and your background, and then your history in healthcare. Can you go down that path and tell me what got you into healthcare?
Well, really what got me into healthcare was a journey I was on with my mother. I was actually completing my undergrad degree at Washburn University, and she was very sick. She had a terminal illness, and at that time, we didn't really know how to navigate that. We didn't really understand what was going on. We didn't have a lot of good supports around us telling her, hey, your mom has end-stage COPD. This is how she's going to die, that type of thing. So I really was trying to figure out like which direction to go. So after I graduated, I know I had met with the advisor, and kind of around this time, she said, maybe you ought to look at going into hospice care. And I really hadn't thought much about that. But actually, after going through that with her, and then after she passed away, I just knew how valuable it was to have a hospice company walk along that journey at the end of life with her. Interestingly enough, and this is really strange how life works, at that time, it was the Jackson County hospice that serviced her at that time. And so here, being back here years later, I kind of feel like life has come full circle. So that's actually how I got into the line of work that I'm doing. And off and on, I've been through assisted living, nursing homes, but primarily that was my love. That was my passion, was being in hospice and palliative medicine.
So the grief care aspect of it, is that kind of in the same role, how you got into that as well?
Yeah, well, and honestly, working as a social worker in home health and actually in hospice care, it is part of the role. So it's kind of a Medicare requirement. Part of the social work role in hospice care is to provide bereavement services. And it just depends on what company you work for, but some companies might have like a whole bereavement department. Being here at Holton Community Hospital, that's just part of my role, being a bereavement support person, and so I help kind of track the bereavement, and we follow the families and the up until about 13 months after someone passes away. So really, it just kind of evolved. Doing the grief aspect of it, it just kind of evolved from there, from actually being a part of the role.
What for people that maybe don't know, what does it look like to be a grief coach for somebody in that moment? Because unless somebody really has walked that life, they don't maybe fully understand it. Right.
So grief coaching is actually what I would determine as maybe companioning someone through their grief experience. It's to talk a little bit about what it is, you have to really talk about what it's not. So I think there's this misconception that it's therapy. It's not. It's not therapy. Therapy is a completely different realm. Actually, therapy goes into more of the past and maybe some experiences, life experiences, or even grief experiences that got us to where we are right now. So grief coaching is more of in the moment. It takes us where we are right now in our grief experience and kind of helps us, give us tools to transform and propel us forward. So we're not really looking at a back process. We're looking more at a forward-looking process. That's really what it is. It's really companioning those through their grief journey and giving them steps and guidelines on how to do that.
Man, you just hit the nail on the head of my next follow-up question, so that was good. That's perfect.
Okay.
Your role at Holton Community Hospital, how do you support the Jackson County and really Northeast Kansas through your role here?
Sure. Well, I think it's open. This isn't something, so, I work in home health and hospice here at the hospital. But really, when we took this on, it was supposed to be something, and it is, something that's open to anybody in the community. And so I think being able to support people not only in Jackson County, but any of the surrounding counties is just really important to me. So it's really an open program. And again, not just for people here and that's going through hospice care. So that type of thing.
Can you tell me what a typical day looks like for you?
Sure. Well, of course, again, I juggle many hats right now, but really with the grief coaching, I've gotten referrals from doctors. doctor's offices. I've gotten referrals just from other people in the community, just saying, hey, I have a friend who's really struggling with, would you mind if they reached out to you? And I would say, yeah. So, basically at that point in time with the grief coaching, I just reach out to them, give them a phone call, and then we just kind of start the process from there. It's very relaxed and it's very client driven. And that's another different, thing different about it not being therapy. So, usually we'll set up that first session and someone will come in and meet with me, and, we might have a cup of coffee. If you want hot cocoa, fine, whatever. But it's very relaxed, and we just talk about where we're at in our journey and, where we need to go from there. And I think it's just having someone validate for them that I'm okay, right? It's okay to be a hot mess, that, and that's a lot of misconceptions, I think, in grief too, is that there's a time limit or you have to do it a certain way. And that's just not so. And so I think that's the benefit of grief coaching, is that they just have someone who knows something about it, knows something about the processes and the steps and coping strategies, right? And helping them understand that they're okay, that even though they might be a little bit caught up and maybe having a difficult time, or it's okay, that they're going to be okay, and it's just going to take a little bit of time down the road. So that's kind of the typical process of it. It's really then just going from there and seeing what they need.
So generally speaking, each grief coaching experience from your end or from a general person's perspective, they're all unique in their own.
They really are. They really are. There's so many types of grief, and we even look at life transitions as well. So, oftentimes, so say you have someone who just lost a spouse, maybe in a tragic way, car accident or whatever, as opposed to someone who has a spouse in a nursing home with a prolonged illness, say Alzheimer's disease. Two totally different types of loss, but it is all the same, right? That depth of pain and just isolation and just all the memories that are attached to things that have changed, right? So, we look at each person's experience as being very unique, and because we're all created as unique individuals, how we respond to our grief is going to be unique as well. You're going to have people who isolate, especially at the very beginning, and they don't want to get out a lot. They don't, they just kind of want to cocoon, right? There's nothing wrong in that. That's just a natural process in healing. Then you have those who want to go in through denial. They just, that's the first stage of grief. You're going to deny it. This isn't happening. You see anger. So you just see different people going through the different 5 stages. Just, there's really no order. You might just breeze through one of them, or you just might experience all of them. And so I think, in grief coaching, that's something that I really focus on, is just really validating someone where they're at and letting them know, it's okay. What you're experiencing is normal. This is kind of where maybe you need to go, and seeing what they think and guiding them along the way. I'm not the magic wand, right? I take no credit in it. It's really them, their bravery, their dedication. They're the ones that do all the work going through their grief. It really is. They're the warriors.
What are the 5? You mentioned the 5.
Yeah.
What are the 5 steps of grief?
So I look at it as DABDA. So that's a great way for me to remember. It's first stage is denial, anger, bargaining, acceptance, and depression. And so again, you can go through, weave in and out. So we look at grief as kind of a roller coaster. It's a really great way to describe it, and that's how I describe it in grief coaching and also in some of the boot camps that we do. So if you imagine yourself on a roller coaster, and some days you're up here and you're going down high, and then you're going down low again, you're going up and down, and really that's where the journey is going to be for quite some time, until you feel like you're kind of on a good long stretch, right? And then you actually, it really is time, there's just no magic indicator like one day I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be over it, because you don't get over grief, right? It's not something you get over. You get over a cold. You don't get over grief. You move through it. It's a natural process, and you just have to give it time to work those steps.
Well, I think it's very important that you reference that some people put a timeline on it of the 13 months or something.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. I think that's a stigma maybe that we can help squash, is that, yes, grief takes time, and that getting help through that will help you maneuver through it. Why do you feel like it's so important for people to understand that there's no timetable on it?
Well, because what I see people come in and they're just beating themselves up because they think that, well, I should be feeling better. Why am I just listening to this song and breaking down in my car? It's been 6 months since my loved one passed away. Why am I still doing that? So I see a lot of guilt involved, which I really just feel like is so unfair for people to feel like they have to carry, And so I think that them understanding that it just takes time, that it's just not really something that you can put a time limit on. I think once they understand too the processes, and this is something that we talk about in grief coaching, once they kind of understand the steps and the stages and some of the strategies, then they start to begin to understand that, oh, okay, well, this is something I'm still working on. And, it's kind of like building a house. It takes time, right? So you think of grief as, well, you were this person before this tragic event happened, right? So then after the event happens, well, essentially you are you, but you're completely different, right? Your whole world has changed. So it takes time to rebuild that person that you were. And so when we talk about that, they're like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why I say you can't rush it. You just really have to know what's tripping you up and then just kind of really work on what's tripping you up and then go forward.
Okay, Traci, if you can tell me some experiences that you've had, maybe some impactful ones, whether it's been memorable, that has helped you, continue on with your journey doing this. What has stuck out to you?
So we offer here at through the grief coaching, but also through the line of home health and hospice. One of the things that we've carried over and continue to do are grief boot camps. Okay, so I think within those camps, what's very exciting to see. So talk about something that changes you, that really means a lot. I think it's just seeing a small group of people come in, and when the first day they come in, I'm meet and greet, like this is kind of talk shop, and they're just so lost. You just see this, any moment we're just going to, sometimes we're very close to tears. We're just very emotional. And that moves me because I know what it took for them to get there. They're so brave. That's why I call them my warriors, right? And I just commend them. I said, hey, you got here, right? You got here. That's a huge step in working on your grief. And going from that to the very last session, so we'll do anywhere from 4 to 8 sessions. But seeing that transformation is huge. You see this person that was before you that was just broken, and you see the healing start to begin, and just that total transformation at the end session. And also you see these band of people that'll have all these different experiences, but their commonality is their grief and their hurt and their brokenness, right? The stories that they share and the bonds that form, it's amazing. It really is amazing. And sometimes they just kind of really want to kind of continue that on even after the boot camp is over. I think that's one of my favorite things right now, is just really watching. And again, I don't take any credit for that. I'm just a willing vessel to be there for information and guidance and education. They're the warriors, are the ones that do the hard work.
And you're seeing the results. That's really cool.
You're seeing it's exciting.
What about some coping strategies that you've seen or integrated with some of the people that you've had in your boot camps or different programs? What has seemed to be effective?
So we talk a lot about coping strategies, and we talk about positive and negative. So of course we concentrate on the positive coping strategies. So one of the things that I talk about a lot, and it's so exciting when I can get even the people who are pretty negative about it actually do it, but we talk a lot about journaling. And even if people aren't really the diary, I write down my thoughts and feelings person, there is a huge value in it, because it's a way to just sit down and really express our thoughts and our feelings. And it's a great way to track how you're really doing in your grief journey. And you really kind of do get to see your healing process in it. Another great coping strategy we talk about a lot is writing hello letters to our loved ones. So it sounds kind of weird, but it really does work, because I think one of the things I hear a lot is, I miss them so much. I want to talk to them. I want to share things with them. Writing a hello letter is a really great way to do that. And just writing out, dear Mom, I miss you today. This is what's been going on since you've been away. And that it has helped. I mean, people really do like that too. Another thing is, we talk a lot about self-care, especially in the very beginning. It's really important. Get up, get dressed, brush your teeth, that type of thing. Eating right, making sure that you're talking to your doctor if you're thinking that you're getting, a little bit more depressed, if you notice some of those symptoms. A lot of times too, we have more aches and pains. We talk about that too, about a lot of physical symptoms that you're going to have with grief. And so it's really important just to, get a good checkup from your doctor. But we talk a lot about small steps, not try to do this in leaps and bounds. Again, talking about the time factor, not being hard on yourself, realizing. So it's trying to just set small goals. Again, what does that look like? Well, if I have a hard time getting out of the house because I'm just not ready for a lot of people, then making that a goal, maybe a short-term goal, really working in short-term goals and then expanding to long-term goals. Specifically too, around the holiday time, it's really important. We talk a lot about that. Even if we have a camp or I'm talking with someone in a session, it's not really even around a special holiday. But you're going to have anniversaries come up. You're going to have birthdays come up. You're going to have those special days come up that we talk about having action plans, right? Okay. So just like we've got to get, prepared to, we got to practice for that football game or, that basketball game. You really do have to put the thought into how you're going to handle those situations. Come up with an action plan for your Christmases, your Thanksgiving, how's that going to look like? What's that going to be like for you? Because it's going to be completely different, right? Without that loved one in your life. So those are really good strategies. We just trying to kind of encapsulate all of that together as we're together, just really talking about being prepared for conversations too. When people maybe will see you out in public and they go, hey, how are you doing? And I think the commonality is what do we always say? I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. And we're not, we're not. Come on. We know we're not. So it's just, how do we respond honestly? And one of the things that I really tell people in grief is that we are the educator. You are the educator. So if you're in grief, and actually, honestly, anyone who has had a traumatic grief experience is an expert in grief, right? Okay, they are, hands down, because they're going through it. So they're an expert in grief. So really, we're the educators if we are having our grief experience. And, if we're not fine, then how do you express it? So really being honest with your answers and a way that you can educate others. And, well, I'm better than I was yesterday. And I'm making progress. Maybe that's a better answer to say than I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine,
Sure.
Yeah. So I definitely go back to developing the strategy, developing the action plan. I think that's really important. And being very honest with other members of the family, other friends, supports about what you're really ready for and what you're not ready for. Traditions are huge, right? So traditions mean so much to us, how we do our holidays outside of grief. So you add grief to that, and the traditions just take on a whole new meaning. Say Dad always fixed the turkey. Mom always made that fantastic pie, whatever. Or just Mom being in the kitchen and she's no longer there. Or we used to always have Christmas and holidays at Mom and Dad's house and we're not there anymore. We can't do that. So it's just all these things that we have to really kind of glean through and know that it's going to be different. So I think that's probably the number one thing, is really stepping into that with that understanding that even though our traditions are going to be different, it doesn't mean it's going to be bad. So, embracing something new, being willing to do something new and something different is okay. It is scary. And it does take a moment just to kind of sit back, and it's kind of a letting go. And then sometimes families decide, we still want to do everything we did normally. It's just going to be, we're going to acknowledge that, we don't have them, but we might just set their plate and just kind of as a memory ritual, So, Dad's not here this year, but we're going to set his place at the table, where he sat, and we're going to have that as a memory. Kind of like at weddings, when we do that, we'll see chairs set up for grandma and grandpa or mom and dad with roses or whatever, kind of like a good memory. So it's really how you want to embrace it. Either you want to carry on and do something like that, which I think is wonderful, and it really works a lot. Sometimes too, we might, especially if the loss has been close to the holiday season, or maybe during the holiday season, sometimes we'll have just like a special get together in memory of that person, and then have our holiday, event or whatever. So I think that's really good. Sometimes you'll go to the graveside. Maybe you'll do something in memory of maybe like balloon releasing or whatever. I don't think they really recommend that anymore. But what I'm saying, lighting a candle, whatever it is that you can do as far as making that memory significant. So that's what I would recommend.
What about a community engagement and the support that you see in the community with grief coaching, with whether it's individuals, a part of the group, or people that you're seeing? How have you seen the community wrap around some of these individuals?
Yeah, so I think starting off just with the support from the hospital and supporting the concept of it, because how it actually even came about was the fact that we were having a support group that we offered once a month, and what I saw, it was actually just the attendance has started to slow down. And I was actually getting people just coming on one-on-one. And after after this session was over, they were saying, I am really glad there wasn't a group of people here. I'm really glad it was just you and me. And it was just kind of, it sprung from that need, right? So I dug into this concept of, okay, how can we do this differently? Because I really wanted to meet people where they're at. And then I was getting phone calls from people in the community, just like, is this normal? Is this really how I should be feeling angry? And just asking lots of questions. And so came to the conclusion we needed to do it differently. So looked into a lot of concepts, and that's really where grief coaching came about. So I thought, I think this is something that anyone could feel like they could do. They wouldn't be intimidated. They could just really come and we could just sit and talk. And so actually the hospital, I brought this in, they were great supporters of it. So community-wide, I hear from people all the time who've been through the grief coaching as well as the boot camps, how much it's helped. And I give them credit for, they've done all the work. It wasn't anything I did. I just provided a platform, a way to learn. So I've heard a lot of positive reinforcement about it. So I hope, I said, spread the word, because we know people need it, right? They just don't know where to start.
Sure. How about some personal insights that you can offer? How do you manage the emotional weight that comes with your job and what you do on a daily basis?
Yeah, it does get weighty, doesn't it? I think my role in being a hospice social worker, being in hospice care for many years in palliative medicine, I think that really prepared me, probably more so, to be able to do what I'm doing now. I think what's really key is not getting caught up in the story. The stories are so hard. They're hard for them to express, and it's hard. It's difficult to hear because it's just, loss is just hard, right? But I think not getting caught up so much in the story. The story is very important, but really focusing on the person and why I'm there. So I am there to help this person who, actually, I kind of like look at it as they're in a dark room without a flashlight. So I am there with a flashlight. I'm turning the flashlight on and I'm saying, hey, we're doing this together. Okay. So this is some things that we're going to work on and we're going to do. And so again, reminding myself why I'm there. But again, I'm not the magic fixer. They're going to be doing all the hard work. I'm just going to be helping them through that. So I think keeping that as a focus. And of course, I practice self-care too, as a social worker. Regardless, you're going to have to do that. Practice your own self-care and making sure you're taking care of yourself.
What kind of practices do you do that help you with that self-care that maybe other people haven't thought of, or maybe, again, people don't focus on themselves very often.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of a hard thing too with people in healthcare. I just don't think we generally do that well, right? We're just so focused on how can I help? How can I help? I honestly wish I could say that, I was like this tremendous runner and exercise person. Absolutely not. Okay. I do, walk a lot in the hospital, back and forth to my car, to Walmart, that type of thing. But no, I do try to get some exercise. I do watch what I eat. And my faith is really important to me. I start the day out with a good cup of coffee, reading my devotion, that type of thing. That really grounds me in my faith. So, I think it's just actually knowing my limitations, knowing when, you've tried your best, you've tried to do everything you can, but just knowing that, we can't fix people, we can't fix situations, and that's okay. That's not what we're here for, right? And accepting that. And, you're going to make mistakes, not being too hard on yourself. And I think that's something I have to remind myself of, that it's okay. It's okay to make a mistake, that type of thing.
So you kind of started going into maybe a little bit of advice for some people there. What advice would you give people that maybe are struggling right now with grief, or know of somebody who is?
Sure. One of the biggest things that we talk about in the sessions, in the grief coaching session, and in the boot camps is the mantra: it's okay to be a hot mess, because you're going to be. It's okay, way okay. Giving yourself time and not being so hard on yourself. I think that's really key. Understanding where you're at in your grief, because it's not going to mirror, because sometimes people are really well intended, and they'll say things like, well, you should be over it by now, or you should be feeling better by now, that type of thing. And they don't know. They're just trying to be kind. They don't know really what to say sometimes. But it really is up to you and where you're at in your grief, and how you want your journey to evolve. And, it's just something that you have to give yourself grace. You can't be hard on yourself. I can't say that enough, because there's a lot of the I woulda, coulda, shouldas. There's a lot of guilt associated with grief. I wish I would have had that last conversation. I should have done this. I should have done that. I should have spent more time. I should have made that last phone call. And, well, it just, that it is what it is. And we just have to pick up where we are right now and let some of those things go. But I think that's the key, is just giving yourself grace, knowing it's going to take time.
The final thing I've got for you is just looking ahead in grief coaching.
Yeah.
What changes or what advancements would you like to see in this field?
I really would like to see more education done about it, that it's really a great platform to be able to reach people. And don't get me wrong, I mean, like therapies and counseling, and there's some great therapists and great counselors that specialize in grief, and they are highly important in the world of grief and loss. But I think being able to offer another platform is extremely important, because, again, I really feel like, support groups are wonderful, but sometimes people aren't ready for support groups. Sometimes, they're not ready, or they're not really wanting counseling or therapy. So I think being able to have another choice is extremely important. And I know, we actually have a really great resource here that I refer to people a lot to, is Senior Life Solutions. So they really work well with life transitions and grief and loss, and they have a support group type of platform. So I think it's really, I think the key is, being able to offer that and getting that word out that it's a choice. It's not going to be for everyone, but I think being able to have the choice to decide.
Just to have the option.
Just to have the option. Yeah.